Welcome back. This time we're talking about the 6th episode of Disney XD's DuckTales, The House of the Lucky Gander, which is actually the first episode since the pilot to take our heroes outside of Duckburg. With Uncle Scrooge, Donald Duck, and the kids all heading to Macau to not only visit the Temple of the Golden Cricket, but to also provide aid to a wayward family member, Gladstone Gander, who by most accounts is Donald's cousin and uncle to the three boys. It turns out that Gladstone has been staying at this really swanky casino, and they all go in to meet him except for Launchpad, who goes off on his own adventure to help some friend named Z. Now, Gladstone is a character that neither Uncle Scrooge nor Donald particularly like. Uncle Scrooge doesn't like him because he is the luckiest person in the world and has essentially never had to work for a dime in his entire life. It just always falls in his lap no matter what he does. As for Donald, he was sort of a rival of his when they were kids, and Gladstone always won because of his luck, and also because Donald might have some of the worst luck in the entire world. Louie ultimately finds himself drawn to Gladstone and asks both his uncles if he can stay while Scrooge tries in vain to find the Temple of the Golden Cricket to fulfill his adventure. But it turns out that they don't have to go too far for adventure because they find all kinds of craziness in this casino, with the owner of the casino trying his best to get them to stay. And ultimately, they all discover that Gladstone is actually a captive of this, luck vampire, who's been holding him captive because Gladstone is essentially the luckiest person in the world and is more or less a buffet for this vampire. Ultimately, Gladstone and Donald will have to compete in a race, and through sheer determination, Donald ultimately wins. As Louie points out that Donald is just one to never give up, no matter what adversity faces him, and that is essentially his greatest attribute. His determination to do what is right, or no matter how hard it might be. And ultimately, Scrooge is able to turn the race against the vampire and pretend to trap Donald in with him instead of Gladstone, but he only stays a few seconds before the vampire realizes just how much of a sink he is when it comes to luck, and ultimately destroys his entire casino. So this was an interesting episode. Like I said at the beginning, this is the first one to really go out on a traditional DuckTales adventure, although they never actually really do anything at the Temple of the Golden Cricket. That turns out to be a bust. But they do have a supernatural adventure with this casino and the luck vampire. And like with a lot of episodes, they've been trying to really develop each of the boys' own personalities and own story arcs. So once again, we have Louie being cut off from the rest and having more or less his own story that's kind of revolves around his respect for his Uncle Donald and his, gravitating toward his much luckier uncle. Each of the other kids have their own little moments as they find something that they get obsessed with within the casino, like aquarium and the various other attractions. But I have to say, I think my favorite moment of this entire episode was the adventure not seen with Launchpad, where we see him at the end with arrows sticking out of him and carrying a baby panda, and just knowing that he had an incredible adventure that we will most likely never see. The unseen side adventure is possibly one of my favorite tropes. It always gets a laugh from me, and I love when they pull it off well, and they nailed this so well. And I just love that it was Launchpad, because we just always associate him with crashing planes and being kind of the doofus, like we got to see him in the Terra Firmians episode. But obviously he has some skills as well, because he survived one heck of an adventure. So that's really my thoughts on this episode. We did not have any Lena, so her storyline is still continuing to move forward. We didn't get any other, progress in any of the other ongoing storylines. This was a nice one-off with some development for Louie and Donald's relationship, and just some funny moments, like a lot of the ones I've already talked about. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you. What did you think of this episode? As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, remember, if you're lost in a casino, the check-in desk is always near the exit.